Welcome to the only show where the host is legally required to carry a sarcasm license. I'm Ethan Blake, and tonight I'm dragging idiocy into the spotlight and handing it a microphone. From viral nonsense to political cosplay, from self-righteous rants to influencer breakdowns, no one escapes the roast. If you came here for truth, you'll get it, with a smirk. And if you came for drama, oh baby, it's piping hot. So pour yourself a stiff one, mute your inner snowflake, and let's jump into the ridiculousness with both feet.
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. It just happens.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
The mistake really is there's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it, so now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do.
My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex.
All right. What'd she say?
She basically said,
It's been a while since we last checked in on the chaos coming from The View, and if you thought they'd finally toned it down, think again. Nope. The hosts are still in full throttle woke meltdown mode, and this week's episode was no exception. But this time they got hit with some serious pushback. Enter Bill Maher and Karoline Leavitt, an unexpected tag team that absolutely dismantled the panel's nonsense. And yes, it was every bit as epic as it sounds. So what exactly did the ladies of The View say that triggered this verbal takedown? And how did Maher and Leavitt respond with the perfect mix of sarcasm, truth bombs, and no-nonsense facts? Don't worry, we've got all the best moments, every mic drop line, and the exact second the woke rhetoric blew up in their faces. Buckle up. This one's going to be a wild ride.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
You might be wondering why Bill Maher is suddenly on a mission to stop the hate toward people with opposing views. Well, it didn't sit well with the ladies of The View. In fact, they're downright furious about Maher's slow drift toward the right. What really pushed them over the edge? His recent dinner with none other than President Trump. On a recent episode, Whoopi Goldberg absolutely lost it, blasting Maher for daring to break bread with the man they've labeled public enemy number one, so vile in fact, Whoopi refused to even speak his name.
And take him seriously and take him literally.
I don't think that we have to. I think it would be remiss of us to not say Joe Biden knows how to do this.
Yes.
He knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And you know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing?
Whoopi's unhinged outburst was just the beginning. What came next was a full-blown takedown of Bill Maher's character. She couldn't handle the fact that Maher committed what they see as the ultimate betrayal, having dinner with the man they vilified for years. To Whoopi and her fellow co-hosts, it wasn't just a meal, it was treason. No amount of logic, comedy, or calls for open dialogue could erase what they consider a disgraceful decision. In their minds, sitting at the same table as Trump made Maher irredeemable. Dining with the devil crossed a line they refused to forgive.
How dare you be so flippant, man? Listen, nobody on the planet really wants to go through this. This is not something we're doing because it's, sexually gratifying. This is what we're doing to protect our families. And you don't have to do it, but stay away from everybody.
If you know anything about Bill Maher, you knew he wasn't going to take this quietly, and he didn't. On a recent episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the veteran comedian came out swinging, firing back at Whoopi Goldberg and anyone else hyperventilating over his White House dinner. With his signature mix of sarcasm, satire, and brutal honesty, Maher tore apart their performative outrage, calmly exposing the absurdity behind it. He made it crystal clear, he doesn't seek their validation, and he certainly isn't begging for forgiveness. This was vintage Bill Maher, raw, unapologetic, and laser-focused. If they thought they could shame him into silence, they clearly forgot who they were dealing with.
As you know, 12 days ago I had dinner with President Trump, a dinner that was set up by my friend Kid Rock, because we share a belief that there's got to be something better than hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. And let me first say that to all the people who treated this like it was some kind of summit meeting, you're ridiculous. Like I was going to sign a treaty or something. I have no power. I'm a fucking comedian, and he's the most powerful leader in the world. I'm not the leader of anything, except maybe a contingent of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute.
Before delivering his verbal smackdown on Whoopi Goldberg, which we'll play shortly, Bill Maher laid down a powerful reminder. This is still America, where democracy is built on the foundation of free thought and open debate. Maher didn't just defend his dinner with Trump. He defended the core principle that disagreement doesn't have to mean hate. You don't have to lose your mind just because someone thinks differently. It's called civil discourse, an idea that apparently the ladies of The View discarded along with last week's outrage script. Maher wasn't only standing up for himself, he was standing up for the right of every American to engage in honest dialogue without being labeled a traitor. It's a pretty reasonable stance, right? Not according to Whoopi, who didn't miss a beat, tearing into Maher with full theatrical fury, outraged that he dared to challenge her narrative.
If he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
And I know as I say that, millions of liberal sphincters just tightened. Oh my God, Bill, are you going to say something nice about him? What I'm going to do is report exactly what happened. You decide what you think about it. And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a fuck.
Whoopi even took things further by comparing Trump to Kamala Harris, exposing her not-so-hidden wish that it had been Madam Vice President inviting Bill Maher to dinner instead. Had that happened, Whoopi wouldn't have flinched. She likely would have thrown the after-party herself. Every compliment Maher gave Trump would have been met with thunderous applause if aimed at Kamala. Whoopi would have been clapping like a trained seal. But because those words were directed at Trump, Maher's praise was instantly labeled as betrayal. This wasn't about values or consistency, it was about political loyalty. Whoopi didn't just expose her double standard. She highlighted how partisan bias now dictates outrage. When it's your side, it's fine. When it's the other side, it's unforgivable.
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before. Sure. So everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But can I just say this? I had on last week Ira Glasser, former longtime head of the ACLU, talking about free speech. Whoopi Goldberg, who, by the way, I hope is still a friend, we can disagree with each other, should not be canceled or put off her show, as much as I totally disagree with her crazy statement. Free speech. She should be there. She shouldn't get a timeout.
This is exactly why Bill Maher earns respect. He doesn't just preach about free speech, he lives it. When the outrage mob came knocking, Maher didn't fold. Even after Whoopi Goldberg publicly targeted him on national television, he stood firm, unapologetic, and grounded in his beliefs. In today's climate, that kind of consistency is rare and genuinely admirable. Whoopi's rant triggered backlash across the political spectrum, with critics slamming her meltdown and some even calling for her resignation. But Maher, he didn't run to play the victim or beg for sympathy. Instead, he leaned harder into his convictions, standing tall in the face of the storm. That's what separates Maher from the typical talking heads. He holds the line when it matters most. Of course, being Bill Maher, he wasn't about to let the drama end without dropping a few verbal grenades of his own before wrapping things up.
Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Oof! Did Bill Maher really just compare Whoopi Goldberg to a hunter and himself to a lion? Oh yes, he did. Say what you want about Maher, but the guy knows how to turn a phrase, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. In this strange media safari, Goldberg stormed in like a righteous hunter, ready to take down the traitor with loud outrage and finger-wagging fury. But Maher, instead of retreating like prey, flipped the narrative. The so-called lion didn't run. He roared back with razor-sharp wit and blistering logic Goldberg never saw coming. In the end, it wasn't the lion who limped away, it was the hunter, visibly shaken, exposed, and off her game. While Maher delivered his blows with surgical precision, the real heat was just beginning. Over at the White House podium, Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt was stepping in, and she wasn't about to pull any punches.
You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and sex, and all of this other BS.
Karoline Leavitt is absolutely right. The moral erosion driven by modern-day wokeness has infiltrated nearly every layer of society, leaving behind staggering consequences. What once passed for empathy or progress has devolved into a corrosive culture rooted in censorship, division, and obsessive identity politics. Media organizations have abandoned objectivity in favor of pushing ideological narratives. Universities have shifted from centers of learning to hubs of indoctrination. Political leaders seem more focused on virtue signaling than delivering real practical solutions. Even the healthcare system isn't immune, as ideology begins to trump evidence-based science and patient care. This isn't a harmless cultural evolution. It's a societal crisis. Wokeness isn't uniting or elevating us. It's hollowing out the very foundations of civil discourse. And then there's Whoopi Goldberg. No longer just a Hollywood figure, she's become a loudspeaker for the very dogma corroding the national conversation. Her uncritical devotion to woke ideology showcases how celebrity influence is now used not to inspire, but to shame, silence, and demonize dissent. Rather than encourage open dialogue, she fuels the toxic cancel culture that's tearing this country apart. That's why Karoline Leavitt didn't hold back. She turned up the pressure and called out Whoopi with clarity and conviction.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help. Think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists, but they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
Karoline Leavitt just wiped the floor with the bitter panelists of The View, and let's be honest, they had it coming. For years, the hosts have spoon-fed their audience a toxic mix of half-truths, distortions, and outright fiction, all packaged as feel-good daytime television with a political twist. It's less informed commentary, more ideological theater. Take their gushing over Joe Biden, for example. They hailed him as the savior of America, while the country watched him struggle, live, and in real time, with obvious signs of cognitive decline. Then came Kamala Harris, painted as the fearless defender of democracy, despite the fact she can barely finish a sentence without losing herself in a fog of incoherent word salads. This isn't journalism, it's propaganda with a laugh track. But Karoline Leavitt wasn't buying it. She came loaded with facts, clarity, and, most importantly, a backbone. And on national television, she dismantled the narrative piece by piece. Whoopi Goldberg, true to form, fired back with her usual brand of dismissive snark. But Leavitt's response, absolutely epic. She didn't flinch. She didn't fold. She stood her ground and made it clear. The days of unchallenged liberal spin on The View are numbered.
So White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt announced that the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office for not honoring the recent renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Take a look. The mistake really is there's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it, so now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do.
My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House.
Leavitt's takedown sent shockwaves through the heart of wokedom. This wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a surgical strike aimed squarely at the hypocrisy that's been left unchecked for far too long. With poise, precision, and a dose of unapologetic truth, Karoline Leavitt dismantled the hollow virtue, signaling that has become the tired calling card of today's elite woke class. At that press conference, she didn't mince words or dance around controversy. She walked straight into the lion's den and called out Whoopi Goldberg by name. No fear, no filter. She exposed the glaring double standards at the core of The View's performative outrage. The same woman who preaches tolerance and unity couldn't handle the idea of someone having dinner with a political opponent. That's not progress. That's hypocrisy in high definition. Leavitt reminded the nation that true leadership doesn't come from caving to the mob. It comes from standing firm in your convictions, even when it's unpopular, even when it's uncomfortable. And that's exactly what she did. Her takedown wasn't just a headline, it was a wake-up call. A loud, unapologetic message that the days of unchecked woke hysteria are numbered, and truth is finally punching back. Together, Karoline Leavitt and Bill Maher delivered a 1-2 punch that laid bare the emotional theatrics and logical inconsistency of the so-called champions of tolerance. Whoopi's meltdown over a simple dinner wasn't a defense of values. It was a display of how intolerant the tolerant have become. Maher held the line. Leavitt didn't flinch. And together, they exposed the rotting foundation of an ideology built on outrage and double standards. This wasn't just a viral moment, it was a cultural checkpoint. Americans are waking up, the spell is breaking, and the worn-out tactics of shame, spin, and censorship are losing their grip. So if you're done with the double standards and hungry for more firepower in the fight for common sense, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Let's win this war against the woke one truth bomb at a time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.